It's just after Jesus' selection of the 12, back in chapter 3, verses 13 through 19. Jesus is in a house with them, and a great crowd gathers outside. His own family concludes that he has gone out of his mind. Chapter 3, verse 21. When his mother and his brothers arrive, they send word for him to come out, expecting him to obey. Jesus is given the message. Who are my mother and my brothers? He asks. Hey, they're trying to save your life, guy! I mean, is it any wonder that Jesus was like crucified? You ought not wonder about that. Should never. You might want to wonder and imagine, why would the Romans crucify Care Bear devotional Jesus? Care Bear devotional Jesus, you don't ever have to, you have to sit around going, wow, I mean, why would they kill him? The Romans would laugh at him. They would laugh at him, but they wouldn't crucify him. But the real Jesus, if you understand the real Jesus, you never have to worry about why he was put to death. Okay, it's very clear. Even his own family tried to save him, and he's like, no. And he's on a mission going straight to death, okay? So that's how it is, folks. Who are my mother? Who are my brother? As he asks. Then he looks at his disciples gathered in his circle. Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother. That's the mark in Jesus. The negative view of the family of Jesus is strengthened in Mark chapter 6, verse 4, which reports Jesus' return to his home to Nazareth and the skeptical reaction of his neighbors, friends, and relatives. There, after not being able to do a single wonder of God, Jesus complains, prophets are not without honor, except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house. What does that mean? If you only had the Gospel of Mark, do you think we could ever develop a devotion called the Rosary? Yes.
So, would this be after, or is it just put in, it's written after? Is this the second time that? Yeah.
What stage you mean of development? No?
No, but I mean, at what we read before in chapter 3, is this the second time he's going back to
Yeah. In chapter 6, yeah.
It's in chapter 6.
Yes. Yeah. In Mark chapter 3, verses 31 to 35, and thus very early in the Markan story, Dandy, Mary and the brothers of Jesus come looking for him, seemingly to drag him back home, since they are puzzled at his intensity and his new style of life and preaching. It's really unbecoming a village artisan. Their appearance causes Jesus to ask his followers the question of who constitute his family exactly. Namely, his family, his fictive family, his faction, his group in relation to the work of proclaiming God's kingdom, the theocracy. Please note, there is zero Mariology and no theology of Mary in Mark. Mark's portrayal of her, along with that of the natural family of Jesus, is consistently negative. The mark in Jesus is very definite, that in this context, anyone who does the will of God is brother and sister and mother to him. In other words, not automatically the natural family by birth, but a family constituted by discipleship, or by working as members in this faction, proclaiming through deed and word the imminent theocracy. Yes, Aaron.
Would this have been considered radical at the time, when family and kinship was viewed in such high regard?
It's important here to illustrate that, to answer your question, it's important to illustrate that Jesus is counter-structural, not countercultural. If he's really countercultural, maybe he'd go out and be an individualist. But you very clearly see he still has a group. He still has a family. He still has a fictive but real family. His Jesus movement.
I feel like he's questioning if it was so common for that to occur, or if that was something that
It's rare that a artisan would do such a thing, and that asks some question, makes us have to ask some questions, which is, what's the deal with the religious genius that happens to be in this village? And this is where we discern that yes, God is involved in Jesus. Maybe not the way we like to magically make these things seem in crypto-docetic ways where Jesus is just disguised as human. No, but yeah, we believe that God is moving him to do these things. In fact, it becomes even more surprising and shocking. See, this is the problem. When Americans read this, well, let's say we read the story and we think, reading it as if Jesus is an American, which is what Americans like to do, whether they're liberal or conservative or whatever. Oh, this is easy. This is a charlatan. This is an individualist who goes out with his own personalized agenda, right? That's how we'd read it. Is that so hard to believe? Somebody cooks up this BS to go fool his people around him, and he goes up. You see what we're doing? We're imagining Jesus as if he's a post-industrial, post-Freudian, post-Jungian personality, okay, Western personality, and he's got all these ideas, and he's cooked up this whole sham, and he's going out to do. What does that assume about Jesus? A whole bunch of things that are anachronistic and ethnocentric to our way of life. It assumes he has access to such pyramid schemes and things like that, right? Did he have that? No. So actually, the story, Raven and Aaron, becomes even more amazing when you begin to consider these factors. It's not amazing in the sense that what he's doing is so countercultural. It's amazing in that his uniqueness and his situation, and you could also say, and other prophets too, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating, yeah.
And his circumstances, for instance, not being able to be married, or
he presents an anomaly. There are anomalous things going on. Those things shouldn't necessarily be, though, that they're thought of as countercultural. They're just, yeah, it varies with what the ordinary behavior of. It doesn't make him alien to his culture, but it does definitely situate him in a way that makes him unique. Yeah, and it explains his death too. It explains his death.
He went back. Had he performed miracles?
Wonders, signs, marvels, preferable to the term miracle. I'll explain why maybe later. Yeah.
So even with that,
Miracle's a nice post-enlightenment word. Yeah.
even with that, they still couldn't accept it.
Yeah, because where's he getting this from? See, if it was a bunch of 21st century people, they might go, David Blaine or something like that. What's going on? I don't understand how he did that trick or something. These people, when they see something happen, they know it happened. It happened. But they're not thinking he's violating any laws of physics. They're thinking, nobody says of Jesus he's not doing these things. What they're saying is, where did he get where did he get the authority for this? That's why you're going to conclude, oh, it's Beelzebub. That's who gave him the authority. The prince of the demons gave him that power. Because clearly what he's doing is beyond the capacity of a peasant or any human being. Right. So he's bartering favors with alternate reality. He's a witch. He's a magician. Right? That's the implication. Or he's possessed by the demons. And that's how he's able to do it, which is basically saying the same thing. Because if you're a shaman, some spirit is possessing him, a good spirit from God or whatever. But you've got something helping you, enabling you, and empowering you to do these things. How's he able to do them? Where's he getting that authority? The authorities are like, listen, if God was going to give anybody authority, it would be somebody highborn, right? Like us, right? That makes sense. Why would they give it to a lowlife living in this village? Oh no, he's violating something. These are unauthorized shamanic practices that he's doing. See? The implication being, man, he's lucky the Romans are here, because if the Romans weren't here, we would have done away with him, because we'd have capital punishment authority. So you have to read between the lines a little bit. Yes?
One thing that bothers me,
Yeah.
how Mary is like even by Jesus, she is.
Well, we got to remember this is the Mark and Jesus, stage 3. So this story has also been interpreted by this point. I'm just showing you that the earliest gospel, as it recounts these things, it may indeed preserve a memory that there was stress between Jesus and his natural family. Gospels also preserve that Mary was along the way. But when we come to the earliest gospel, the earliest narrative gospel, Gospel of Mark, Mary and the family of Jesus are presented in an unflattering picture. And there may be reasons why the Markan community did that. There could be many people in their communities, they emphasize this because there were many people in their communities who had been dislocated from their own natural relations to join the Jesus group. So we're not getting 21st century biographical accuracy of things. But yeah, absolutely, Jesus had problems with his natural family. And I'm sure Mary herself grappled with what the heck is going on here. Does that make her sinful, or it's just a part of the condition. She would have had to grapple with her son's vocation. Yes, Violet.
It started at the age of 12, where he went into the
Which is Luke. And that story is a brilliant theological story. Remember, we don't get childhoods in the Middle East of 2,000 years ago unless you die and become famous. If you die and resurrect and go up the sky vault, I think that makes you famous. Now it's time to make a childhood. Should I say that? Now it's time to make a childhood. I'm sure Jesus was precocious like any young man, male, at 12 years old. But yeah, it's a brilliant theological story. That story.
His idea was different.
Yeah, but he's also the same. He's learning. He learns that whole idea is he's actually learning from the scribes, the elders. He's sitting with them as a student. He is different. We're all different. But I think it's very important that Catholics and Christians realize that Jesus is different from us in degree, not kind.
He's supposed to be human, right?
Yeah.
That's the point.
In fact, he's the human being. We're only human becoming. He's us actualized precisely because he's the Son of God. He's different from us in terms of degree, not kind. It just so happens that in the perfect way, there will be no one like the incarnation like he is, because he's the most realized, but that doesn't mean that he's alien somehow to us. When God unites God's self to something, it becomes more excellently what it is, because God is the sheer act of existence itself. So when God unites God's self to the burning bush, it doesn't cease being a bush, it becomes a radiant bush. I'm using this, I'm being a little poetic here, but bear with me here. When God unites God's self to the virgin, she becomes a mother. When God unites God's self to the people who have no name, they become Israel, God's own chosen people. See, they don't cease being what they are, they become more excellently what they are created to be. You follow? And when God unites God's self to the human nature, right, it doesn't become a disguise. It becomes the most human being that ever lived, precisely because it's divine. So when God comes down to creation, right, comes down, listen to that language, dualistic, it doesn't blot out the creature. It makes it excellent. God doesn't do violence to nature. God is the source and summit of created things. Creature and creator go together. There is no dualism needed. We can eliminate that. We make distinctions, no separations. So, one of the most fundamental issues connected with references to Jesus' mother and brothers in the New Testament is that in Mark, very, very pessimistic view of the natural family of Jesus. That's how we start off.